Like he wants to do me something.
And then with them, they're both male. So he's trying to show his little dominance. At some point, he probably start doing a little head.
So he's younger than
No, he's a little older.
He's older.
Yeah, he's
okay.
just on the small
All right, wait. Player. There we go.
So you don't want to know? You wouldn't want to know.
So here's the thing. He's saying just a list. Then he adds like, well, if you sleep with my homeboy, well, if you're with someone who is respectful to you and knows you, she's probably going to let you know that.
Well, he got weird saying the whole list. I don't want to know everybody.
Oh, now he wants to know everybody. He want to know everybody.
The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts now.
Well, hey, everybody. It's a beautiful Monday here in Houston, Texas, in the sweltering heat we've been dealing with. Keisean, Senora, how are you both doing?
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing?
Evening. So we know, I have a feeling that Isaiah is probably watching us right now because I just saw that he was texting in the group chat a second ago. So I have to make sure I do this the right way. And joining us tonight is Senora Harris with the glossy lips. Senora, how are you?
Happy. This is the last night that the sun set at 8. It's going to start setting earlier now, like after today.
Oh.
So I'm like, any kind of break I can get from the heat, I am so happy about.
Yeah.
That makes two of us. I'm going to tell you this much. Three of us. I'm going to tell you this much. If it was not, I don't know how people back in the day were able to handle this because I need air conditioning. So listen, I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about y'all, like if you do this, like checking your weather app, but sometimes like I'll open the app and I'll look at the weather in other cities. I'm like, oh, okay, in Houston, it's 90 degrees, feels like 100. And then in New York, it's like, oh, it's 79 degrees. And I get so jealous. I don't know if it's just me that does that though.
No, I do it all the time. I actually, since I'm from Ohio, I have Ohio, like a few places in Ohio pinned. And I remember Mom, I was talking to her recently and she was like, oh my gosh, it's so hot outside. And I was like, what's the temperature? She's like, 80 degrees. And I'm like, oh, boo, it's so hot. And here
we have to wait till midnight for that.
If we're lucky.
Right now in LA is 79 degrees and Atlanta is 88. I just left Atlanta because I went to NABJ. And in New York, it is, I don't know, it's 78, 79 degrees. 76 degrees in New York.
Sounds rough. Sounds so tough. We won't see those temperatures until October if we're lucky.
I went out for lunch. Well, I went out for dinner just now. I had to run back to the station. It was just so hot.
Oh, that's where you were when we were looking for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Are you looking for me?
No.
Y'all wasn't looking hard enough.
Just giving you a hard time.
Y'all know where to find me.
Oh, Lord. All right, guys, let's go and get into some of the big topics today. Our first story has definitely been a shock to a lot of people around the country. 36-year-old actress Hayden Panettiere, she had many roles in shows like Heroes, Nashville, Remember the Titans, and obviously the Scream franchise. So the news is that she passed away at 36. Definitely very, very, very sad news. And we have a clip from Fox News we're going to go ahead and play right now.
I'm very happy to have the approval of a 5-year-old.
I'm 9.5, thank you very much.
Why don't you get this little girl some pretty dolls or something, Coach?
I tried. She loves football.
You're still weak on the left side.
We're not weak on the left side. We just got to work harder on the left side, that's all.
It's not the problem.
What is the problem?
I think it is, but it ain't. It's your pass
Tell me what the problem. It's not. It's a run anyway. It's not a pass. The veer is a run, not a pass.
All right, you two. That's enough of that. Cheryl, don't you want to play with Nikki?
I hate playing with dolls. I'm not playing. I'm accessorized.
Yeah, why don't you go accessorize? Don't you want to go accessorize with me?
Actress Hayden Panettiere, just 10 years old, during that breakout role. Now the world reacting to tragic news of her passing at just 36. Pronounced dead at the scene in Greenville, South Carolina yesterday afternoon following a 911 call from an unidentified acquaintance. TMZ reporting new leads in the investigation. Executive producer Charles Boudier is here exclusively. First to senior national correspondent William LaJeunesse, who is in L.A.
Well, Martha, we're waiting for the final autopsy report. But if you listen to the 911 call, paramedics believe the actress had overdosed on something. So what you're about to hear is one dispatcher talking to another who was talking with paramedics who found Hayden unresponsive when they arrived at the apartment in Greenville.
On for cardiac arrest, Justin Millwall, 701 Aisley Bridge Road.
Aisley Bridge Road, overdose, CPR is in progress.
So that was about 2 p.m. on Sunday. 30 minutes later, medics declared Panettiere dead. No signs of trauma or foul play, according to the coroner and police. Panettiere appeared to have it all. She had a young daughter, successful career, awards, and hit songs. At age 10, she landed that role in the movie Remember the Titans, and later Ice Princess and Scream. On TV, she starred in Heroes and Nashville. 11 of her songs made it to the country Billboard Top 100. In a recent memoir, she discussed her battle with alcohol and postpartum depression and coming out bisexual.
Criticism in any form is a hard pill to swallow, and especially when you're at these very vulnerable ages. It's not about how many times you fall down or how you fall down. It's about how you handle it afterwards, how you pick yourself up.
Several questions, Martha. Who was the acquaintance that she was with? Why Greenville? What did the coroner find? Did he find drugs? What kind? Where did she get it? And if there was an overdose, was it intentional? Panettiere shares an 11-year-old daughter with her ex-fiancé, boxer Vladimir Klitschko. She was 36. Martha.
Okay, William, thank you very much. And with that, we bring in TMZ executive producer Charles Laboutiere. Charles, great to have you with us. I know how deeply you guys dig into these stories and how well you know them. So what can you tell us? What have you learned about the circumstances where she was found and what may have happened here?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Martha. There is a good reason for her to be in South Carolina. I know initially everyone thought, why Greenville, South Carolina? Why is a big star like Hayden Panettiere there? Well, her longtime boyfriend, on and off again, Brian Hickerson, is from that area. And we found out that he was indeed in Greenville at the same time as Hayden. In fact, they traveled to South Carolina together. Now, we don't yet know if he was the other person that was there. Law enforcement has described the person who made the call as an associate of Hayden Panettiere's. Now, there is some more evidence that there was a second person in that apartment when paramedics arrived there. We know that 2 ambulances went, and generally, if you send 2 ambulances, that means there are 2 people in distress. Yet we know that the stretchers that went in came back out without anybody on them. Meanwhile, we also saw the coroner's office show up, and of course, they ended up taking Hayden's body. So whether Brian or someone else was in the apartment with her, there is some other evidence to that. We have confirmed that there was Narcan found in the apartment on one of the beds, a rollout bed in the apartment. And that Narcan, of course, you can get it over the counter, but that is used to reverse the effects of a possible opioid overdose. So somebody, whether it's Hayden or somebody else who was in that apartment, apparently used or tried to use Narcan, which would be another sign pointing to drug use by someone in that apartment. Now, the autopsy has been completed, and at this point, the coroner says that they have not determined a cause of death, but they did not see any signs of trauma that would lead them to believe there's any foul play at all.
So I want to quickly play this from Nashville just to remind everybody. I mean, you know, such a bright young star, so many hits and accomplishments. But let's play that from Nashville, and then let's play Hayden talking about the loss of her brother back to back.
He did promise to behave after the shoplifting, the scandals, the wedding thing.
Behave? This is my damn career.
Hey, I'm trying to save you from wrecking it.
No, you are trying to run my life. I am a multi-million-dollar industry, and it is about time that I took control of it. So I'm going to keep writing my songs the way I want to write them, and you keep writing the checks.
Losing him and realizing how much of life I was going to have to go through alone and without him, when I always saw him as being there. When he first died, I just remember screaming, I don't want to live in a world where he doesn't exist.
Yeah, that was just a few months ago, that second clip, Charles.
Yeah, her brother died in 2023, and said spoke while doing press for her memoir that came out earlier this year. That it was absolutely devastating. She felt essentially what you call survivor's guilt after his death. So that's something that has really haunted her. And while it has haunted her, she did also sound like she had turned the corner. At least that's what she was saying in interviews earlier this year, that she had turned the corner from her battles with addiction and from the trauma of her brother's death, and that she felt like she had a good relationship with her daughter, Kaya, who is now 11. And although she does not have custody, she surrendered custody to Kaya, to her father, Vladimir Klitschko, the boxer. But she said that they had reconnected. And so it seemed like things were trending in a very good direction for Hayden. And then whatever happened in that apartment happened this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, what a tragedy. And, you point out Klitschko, just as a side note, the father of her daughter Kaya, is the brother of the former mayor of Kyiv, who's been so prominent in the Ukraine war. I just want to quickly play this number 3 because, it's very sad, but just to look back at this career. Watch.
Look, I don't care if you're here, but if you post me on the school website falling on my butt, you better transfer me to another school.
We see, child stars sometimes have troubles along these lines. It's a lot of pressure, Charles. We also see some who, seem to be able to make it through. And it seems like she was plagued for many years alongside all this success.
Yeah, it seems like the bigger the stardom that is achieved, and at the age they achieve that stardom, the more difficult it is to overcome just all sorts of things for life in Hollywood. And, Hayden is someone who's been acting, appearing in commercials and other things since before she could walk. So she's literally had an entire lifetime living under this spotlight. And, at times it was clearly too much for her to handle.
Yeah. Tragedy for her parents, losing 2 of their children. It's just awful. Charles Leboudier, thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely really sad story. Again, that I believe that she had passed away in South Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, and one of the things that was said during the interview that I feel like a lot of times people don't take into account is it was referenced that earlier this year she seemed like she was doing better, or she was on the up and up. I always have a hard time hearing people say that, because I think at the end of the day, a lot of people don't let everybody know how they're actually truly feeling, and I think that it's kind of unfair for somebody who's in such a prominent role. I think a lot of times they probably keep a facade up.
Yeah, they do, and especially if you're in Hollywood and you've been in Hollywood, you've been in this industry since before you could walk. You're taught to make life seem like it's perfect or great, or put that facade up. You're all about your image, so you don't really know what she's going through at in any moment. And she just released a memoir back in May, and there she discussed her issues with Hollywood, her drug abuse, being addicted at one point, her children. It's just so sad. She was only 36 years old, and her birthday was actually later this week. So young.
Super, super sad. And there are some people who've been commenting on the story. Senora, if you want to go ahead and go through some of these comments, I wouldn't necessarily read what Tom Jones wrote at the end of it, but everybody else.
T Grease 601 says, this title has me crying because I just thought about Hayden the other day. Rest in peace, baby girl.
And
From
I don't want
to. My first glance at your beauty was on GL. I'm not sure what film or TV credit that is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a lot of people online and her former co-stars, her colleagues, paying tribute to her all day. And just something about her story that stands out to me is like, of course, her cause of death is still under investigation, but she really, like, I don't think a lot of people knew that she had been struggling for all of these years as far as her mental health goes. And when you think about, or when some people think about someone struggling with their mental health or having some kind of a substance issue, they don't think about somebody who looked like Hayden. So like y'all said earlier, you never know what somebody can be dealing with.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll definitely wait for more information when it comes to that. And Regal Media Group said guiding light, probably. Keisean, I heard you say it, but I wasn't sure if Senora heard you say it.
Yeah.
So definitely a crazy, sad story, and we'll definitely follow the latest when it comes out, which I'm sure there will be a lot more information.
And keep commenting, y'all. Keep looking at our stories tonight. We have a whole bunch of topics we're discussing. Just comment. We want to know what you think. So comment, and we'll read your comments on air.
Absolutely. So next big story. This is something, if you live in the city of Houston or if you live in any major city across the country, it's talking about crime. So violent crime actually is down to some of the lowest numbers since the FBI started tracking those numbers back in 1936, so 90 years ago. And it's interesting. Houston, Dallas, there are a couple of other Texas cities too, where the numbers even have either held steady or gone down a little bit. Looking at the first quarter of last year compared to this year. So we had interviewed with Crime Stoppers of Houston, Andy Kahan. So let's go and take a listen to what he had to say. Me tonight is Andy Kahan, and Andy, talking about crime statistics across the country and even here in Harris County and in Houston as well. Specifically Houston. Last week on Friday, the FBI released data showing that there was a large decrease in crimes nationwide. I guess kind of looking at the big picture, what's your initial thought with hearing that?
It's rare that I get a chance to actually smile a bit, but the fact that we've had a major reduction of crime, particularly violent crime, and that's kind of what Crime Stoppers focuses on in a 1-year period, gives me a lot of hope. And it's significant. The fact that it's been 90 years since we've had this low crime rate in the country. That's remarkable.
And and it's so funny because I think a lot of times people get caught in the headlines about death, destruction, what have you, and not just here in Houston, just
it's in news, it bleeds, it leads. I mean, that's pretty much what the first few minutes of the news is, the crime of the day. So yeah, we get inundated with that and we think we've got major crime problems. And trust me, Houston had major crime issues between 2020 and 2024. But I'm going to tell you, one of the reasons that I know that our homicide rates have dropped dramatically, and that's our Breaking Bond series. We've been doing Breaking Bond for 6 years. And I'd say for the first 4 years, the shows that we did were predominantly focused on individuals who were released on multiple bonds. Very rarely do Randy Wallace and I ever do a Breaking Bond in the last year plus on an individual charged with murder who's been released on multiple bonds or a PR bond. So a lot of legislation, and you got to give credit where credit is due, and you can't say it's one thing, but I do think the bills that we got passed to reduce the revolving door at the courthouse has made a significant difference in the reduction of violent crime and particularly murder. Individuals who are routinely getting out on a personal recognizance, get out of jail free card, no matter what they were charged with, and that includes violent crimes, that doesn't happen anymore. Judges are more cognizant of the bonds that they're giving. We're seeing higher bonds than we've ever seen, and I've been doing this for a long time, in decades. That's as a result of the attention that we've brought to this issue. So we also had a constitutional amendment that was overwhelmingly passed by Texas voters. And our district attorney's office is using that religiously to request no bond on defendants, not just charged with capital murder like they used to, but we're charged with murder, ag robbery, sexual assaults, and other violent crimes. That has played a significant role in the drop in crime in Houston from my perspective.
And, you know, and Andy, it's interesting when you talk about that too, because before we started taping and everything, we were talking about Houston specifically. And we were talking about the drop in homicides for the first quarter of 2025 to the drop that's happened earlier this year. So just to put it in the context, so in the first 3 months of 2025, there were There were 77 homicide cases in the city of Houston. This year, fast forward a year, it went from 77 down to 49, which is, I mean, that's almost 30.
That is so significant. And you compare it to other large major cities of population of proportionate to Houston. For example, Chicago has double the amount of homicides during the same period. I think if you looked at all the other cities right there, there's no other city in the country that has had such a dramatic decrease in homicide rates during that time period.
And you know, and it's funny because I have it pulled up next to me and I'm scrolling through it, and you're right. I feel like that the number that Houston had with the drop was remarkable. And you know, it wasn't just homicides either. I mean, if you look at the rape, the violent crime survey with the rapes, that was down from 371 in 2025, the first quarter of it, to 260 in the same time frame this year. Robberies were down from just over 1,300 to just shy of 900 this year. And also aggravated assaults a little bit closer, but still down nonetheless. So when you look at these statistics, you see the trend is going down in all the violent crime categories that are being reported in this survey.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, keep in mind that we reached all-time highs in those numbers in 21 and 22 and even part of 2023. So realistically, we had nowhere else to go but down. And I do want to say one thing about the homicide rates that very few people talk about. One of the reasons that you have a reduction of homicide is medical technology. And I'll tell you why. 10 years ago, people that would have normally died of wounds that they had had from shotguns or other types of weapons are now being kept alive by our medical professionals. So the medical professionals deserve a little bit of credit in this. They don't get credit, but medical technology has saved lives that ordinarily would have been classified as homicides as well.
Definitely very interesting to hear. I guess, okay, so I live in the city, I live in the inner loop. To me, when I see these numbers, that's important to me as a person living in the city, not just a person who's covering it. What would you want to say to people if they're like, all right, maybe I'll feel a little bit more safe walking my dogs at night or going on a walk through the bayou, like Buffalo Bayou or Eleanor Tinsley Park or what have you? What would you want to say to the people who maybe were concerned about going out? Now, maybe should they feel a little bit better about going outside?
I do think they should feel better about it. And keep in mind, homicide, for the most part, statistically, is a personal crime. If you broke them down by homicides versus someone you knew versus random stranger on stranger, the numbers would be dramatically different as well. You know, unfortunately, you do have hot pocket spots like the Third Ward whose numbers have increased. And that kind of balances off the areas of town where the numbers have decreased. But I'm hoping that we continue to see this trend and we continue to have a safer city. So kudos to law enforcement, kudos to all the community organizations that are working hand in hand, and kudos to organizations, and I'll give a thumbs up for Crime Stoppers for continuing to, you know, keep an eye on what's happening on crime rates and identifying them as well. And I hope this upcoming legislative session, you'll see additional laws that are passed that get tougher on repeat offenders, because that's what we were seeing in the previous years. And that's pretty much has ended. The revolving door at the courthouse that led to the surge in criminal activity, particularly violent crime in Harris County, has pretty much been nullified.
Very good. Well, Andy, as always, I appreciate you for coming on to the show, and we look forward to having you on the next time we have you on the show.
You bet. All right. Peace out.
Awesome. Peace out. Thank you. All right. Some good information right there. You know, one of the things I do want to say, just to kind of put it into context. So I know that Andy had mentioned that Chicago had almost double the numbers, which is accurate. They had, I think, 98 homicides during the same time period in the first quarter. Houston had a huge drop. I would argue to say out of all the major cities, according to the report, it had one of the largest drops of homicides in the entire country.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to keep in mind, though, is there were still more murder or homicides that were reported in the city of Houston than Los Angeles. And there were also more that were reported in Houston versus the city of New York. So the reason why I want to bring that out is because, yeah, Chicago, 100% accurate and everything. And it's still accurate with everything else that was reported. But I know a lot of times people will be like, oh, New York City or oh, LA or oh, this. Like Houston still has work that needs to be done. But on a good positive note, though, Houston is trending in the right way. It's going down. So kudos to what's being done here in the city of Houston. And I'm curious to hear, and I know that you have it on the lower third, is what do people think? I mean, do people feel safer? Do people feel fine walking around, or are they still concerned?
Like personally, I hear the numbers, I hear that crime is going down, is on a decline, but honestly, I don't feel safer. I don't feel safe. And maybe because I also work in at a news station, like we always get these reports about crime and someone getting robbed or attacked or something, or social media. I'm always seeing videos on social media of someone getting their ass kicked.
You need to change your algorithm, Keisean. You need to change that algorithm.
So I don't feel safe. Like I'm always, my head is on a swivel when I go out. Like I'm always looking for the exit.
Yeah, no, that's smart though. And Dolores put on Facebook saying the more cameras, the lower the crime. And it's interesting because we've talked a lot about the flock cameras. We've talked a lot about the different cameras across the city. And I'm really curious to see if there's any correlation between the two of them. I don't obviously have the information, but that's something I think would be a good follow-up story for the Isaiah Factor Uncensored Primetime Live. So
wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. And I mean, with the camera situation, I know that's also a controversial thing as well. Yeah. And as far as feeling safer, I don't know. Like I'm always about just staying vigilant. Like literally earlier today before I came in, I was looking at getting a different dog harness that like lights up at night. Since I walk my dog at night, I'm just like, I'm always just like thinking, I'm looking over my shoulder. I don't want to get comfortable because you never know. Yep. You never know. You can be anywhere at any part of the city and anything could happen at any time.
Let's be real too. How many stories do we see where it's in some podunk small ass town where they have somebody who gets shot or what have you? I mean, I just remember growing up, and kind of the both of your guys' points is the simple fact of keep your head on the swivel, just be aware of your surroundings, know where your exits are, know what you need to do in case of an emergency. And I mean, I also go into my everyday life of I'm going to control what I can, and what I can't control, so be it. I mean, but that's not always fair, because it's not always the case for everybody.
Right. And another thing that Andy pointed out in your conversation with him is that technology in at hospitals and doctors have improved a lot in the past few years, that we are able to save lives, which is a good thing. I never thought of it like that. I never thought of, let's give a little shout out to the doctors and our medical professionals for helping saving lives, more lives, and technology these days are better. If someone gets shot, it's not always a death sentence. You may survive.
That's true. Yeah. Well, interesting topic. Definitely, like I said, good trend, and we'll see what happens, I guess, throughout the rest of the year.
Yep, we will.
All right, guys, you ready for some spicy tea?
Yeah, let's give it up.
I don't know if spicy tea is right.
It's not spicy tea.
It is spicy.
It's kind of lukewarm.
It's lukewarm. Well, it might be lukewarm. Who knows? No. Okay. So this weekend, started last Wednesday.
It started last Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the NABJ convention, National Association of Black Journalists, held their annual convention this year in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Well, something
I was there.
As like Keisean was there. I know Isaiah was there. I know that we had a
for
very
a moment.
Good, for a moment. We had a good delegation from Fox 26 out there. But one of the big things that I personally wasn't aware of is they do an award. It's called the Thumbs Down Award, and it is creating some drama this year with Stephen A. Smith. And let's go ahead and listen to
I want to also point out that he was given the Thumbs Down Award because of his comments against Black women.
Mm-hmm.
He said some things about Jasmine Crockett and other women, and Michelle Obama, I believe. And he took to his YouTube channel today, and it was a 45-minute video.
And
I selected for you guys. I got a minute of what he had to say. Okay,
let me get my tea.
He had a lot to say.
I got my tea.
Let's hit it. Let's play it.
A little bit personal. I own my own YouTube channel. I have 6 Black women working for me. My financial advisor is Black. Her name is Stacey Robinson. A brilliant, marvelous lady, and one of my dearest friends on the planet who's watched my back for decades. My lawyer is a shareholder and partner and one of the elite lawyers in this country named Janine Barnes. At a prestigious law firm in Washington, D.C. She's a Black woman. I've been surrounded by Black female excellence all my life. Where are your facts? Where are they? The reality of the situation is that you don't have facts. You have feelings.
Yeah, feelings. And joining us is Todd Smith of Regal Media, CEO. What's up, Todd? How you doing? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Todd's so excited to talk about this.
Oh yeah. I'm ready to go in.
You're ready.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's your thoughts on what the NABJ had to say about Stephen A. Smith?
With him getting the award, and like Roland Martin mentioned in the tease for his show, they didn't just give it to Stephen A. Smith. They gave it to Brendan Carr. They gave it to the Washington Post, and that's what the NABJ is supposed to do. Even with HABJ, which I was an officer for 8 years, we advocate on behalf of the Black community, on behalf of the Black journal, on behalf of Black journalists. So if I see somebody doing something detrimental to the community, it doesn't matter if they look like me. We have to call that out. And Stephen A. Smith loves to say, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's not a damn mongoose. A lot of the criticism that he receives is warranted. He goes hard at African Americans, recently African American women in particular, but he built his brand on being an a-hole, calling people like Kwame Brown scrubs, telling people, oh, they can't play, you suck. So when somebody puts the mirror up to him, now he wants to cry. No, we're not having it. I understand that he employs Black women. I understand that he loves Black women. I understand that he's a Black man, but that doesn't mean that what he says and does is not detrimental to the Black community as a whole. Just because you hire 6 Black people doesn't mean what you're doing is not detrimental to 600 million or whatever Black people in America. However, I know it's not 600 million, we have 300 million, but you get what I'm saying. He has a large platform, and people, I believe people in power use him to talk down on Black people. ESPN infamously laid off a lot of Black talent, Ryan Clark in particular, my frat brother. He had a history of speaking up for the Black community, telling Black athletes, hey, if they're going to take away Black political voices in certain states, don't take your talent there. Take your talent to HBCUs. Ryan Clark is gone. Stephen A. Smith seems to make excuses for racism. He has a history of that. He's still there. He's still hobnobbing with the Jerry Joneses of the world. And I think that that's his problem. I'm all for a brother making money and moving up, but I think sometimes when you move up and you're so distant from your community, you forget where you've come from. You forget the struggles that a lot of regular African-American folks, people who don't have a $100 million contract, you forget that struggle. And they're using you. I believe racists use black people to spew racism because it's more acceptable if it comes from somebody that looks like us. If a white person says some of the stuff that Stephen A. Smith says, oh, you're a racist, or we gonna but if it comes from a black person, oh, it's not that bad, and racists feel justified. Oh, it's one that feels the same way as I feel, so it must not be that bad. You have to be careful because when you have millions of people listening to you, you have a responsibility. Like they say, to whom much is given, much is required. Stephen A. Smith is, as a black man, as black people, we can't just be capitalists. We can't just be like, I'm going to make as much money as I can make. I'm going to get as much power as I can get. I'm going to be in these executive suites. You have a responsibility to speak up for your people because we don't have major news stations. We don't have major we have some major radio corporations, but we don't have that reach to get our messages out. And I know y'all were just mentioning about the algorithms with fights. I really believe the algorithms stymie black political voices. And they put the negative out there. They put the tomfoolery out there, the buffoonery out there, because they want to. I'm noticing it with me. If I say something political, I might get some. I say something clowning, I'm gonna get more reach than that. And a lot of YouTubers say the same thing. So Stephen A. is one of those people who has that voice, and he might not want to be totally political, but brother, tone it down a little bit. You know what I mean? You don't have to. And if you're gonna criticize black women, go hard on the Marjorie Taylor Greens. I always compare Jasmine Crockett to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Jasmine is ghetto, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're the same. They're one and the same. They're just on different aisles of the political spectrum. And Stephen A. Smith has to realize that, bro, all money ain't good money, and you're selling your people out.
So in the video, he mentions that he apologized to Jasmine Crockett, Michelle Obama. He misspoke. Does that hold any weight for you?
No, because I always think the apology doesn't get as much attention as the negative. Just like as a journalist, if I get a story wrong and I put a retraction out, to me, I always think that the negative story gets more attention. A lot of people don't see the apology, or the apology is not going to go viral. That hot take is going to go viral. Like I said, the algorithm is going to gravitate towards that negativity. They might not hear the apology. So if you apologize, continue to apologize. But Stephen A. knows exactly what he's doing. The brother is not dumb. He knows exactly what he's doing. And he was the brother that athletes ran to because they know he would give him a fair shake back in the day when he was an actual journalist. He realized being this hot take person, that's going to get him more money. And he really changed the game. ESPN doesn't have the news shows and the sports shows that they used to have, the sports reporters. Everybody has to have a hot take. Everybody has to say something stupid, but you're doing a disservice to the community, man. I used to tell my students at TSU all the time, if the name of my company was Ratchet Media, I would have blown up a long time ago. But it's regal and it's classy and it's sophisticated. I'm not going to blow up like that. It's going to take me longer, but I will always be able to look in the mirror. I always tell people all the time, my grandmother's dead and gone. I was scared to cuss around her as a grown man, 30 years old. I want her to be proud. I want my mother to be proud. I want my community to be proud. If I don't make the money that I would want to make, so be it. But some people get entitled. And think about how much money do you actually need, man? You know what I mean? I'm not going to turn down no money, but if you got $100 million, what you going to do with $2? Like, what are you going to buy? So you have enough money to set it aside and make a difference. The Kennedy family is a great example of this. Their father, the patriarch, made so much money, he knew his kids would be straight. So now you can be in politics. Now you can have this social activism about you. Now you can stand up for the little man if you want to, because we're straight financially. Stephen A.'s family is straight. He's bringing his daughter in. He's bringing his nephew in, and they're great at what they do. You're good, bro. If you don't become a billionaire, if Jerry Jones don't like you, other billionaires, bro, you will be just fine. Use those million followers to make a difference for your community, because they are stymieing black voices, and you're one of the last ones left. And what you do with it is promote white stereotypes of black folks, man. And it's having a negative impact, because if you say it, they're going to believe it.
So one of the questions I have for you too, Todd, is I know earlier there was a clip where I think it was probably part of this podcast and everything, where Stephen A. Smith was saying that he had reached out to the president of NABJ to come onto the podcast to essentially discuss, I don't know exactly what he was going for with it, Do you think that the president of NABJ should have went on to his show to talk about it in public versus it just being at the convention and then not saying anything else with Stephen A. Smith there?
I agree with him on that. If the award was broadcasted on social media or whatever, now it's public. You need to be a woman about the situation. You need to speak to him person to person and stand on it. Don't be scared. You said what you said. I was always taught if I have something to say about somebody, even if it's on social media and I don't have the opportunity to be on Stephen A. Smith's show, I'm going to at him because I want to give him at least the dignity to be able to respond if he chooses to. I'm not hiding. You know what I mean? This is what I spoke about it on my socials. This is how I feel. I know I'm not on that level to where he would need to respond, but if you felt the need to respond, you'll know about it because I didn't hide from it. So I think that she needs to stand 10 toes down. And if it wasn't her decision, say that. But you know, this is a board that came up with these awards. I stand behind them. I support them. And I think Stephen A. has to. Sometimes criticism is warranted. Nobody likes to be criticized. But if everybody is saying the same thing about you, a lot of people, there's some truth to it. You might need to have some reflection. Stephen A., maybe he's gotten so big to where he doesn't think he needs to reflect. And I've been around the brother. I don't know the brother. I've been at NABJ. I've been at the Final Four. Brother smelling himself a little bit. He's feeling himself. I understand that. But, bro, you're not above criticism. None of us are. And I think he needs to accept that fact.
Well, Todd, I'm just going to say that you are worthy of a Stephen A. Smith response. And also want to say, I think that, you know, I mentioned in our editorial meeting that I think all this, even NABJ mentioning Stephen Smith, his price went up. Like, he's going to get more popularity. People are going to go to his page more. Went to his YouTube page. He has over 1 million followers on subscribers on YouTube. The price has gone up. Even when you mention this man, it just goes up. Like,
we're helping him out.
Yeah, helping him out. Yeah, the money's going up.
And it should help the visibility of NABJ. I mean, we all know about NABJ. We go to the conventions. We are active in the local scene. Hey, but that sheds a light on the organization and what they're trying to do. Not even just the negative, but a lot of people might not know the positive that they do. They might not know some of the publications and small media companies who have CEOs that are members, so they might go support some of those people. So it's a win-win. All publicity is good publicity, man.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Todd Smith, thank you as always for coming on. And just something else, a plug for NABJ. Next year, the convention will be held here in the great city of Houston. What? So it'll be here. Todd, always thank you for coming on and joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All righty, guys. Well, that's always a good conversation. Love having Todd on the show.
Yes.
So definitely a topic that has a lot of people talking. So Keisean, you hit it right on the head. The more we're talking about, the more it's going straight into his bank account. And I wish
he is getting money. He mentioned in the video that he mentioned on his YouTube that he released today that he's on vacation right now and he just had to make this video. He's fine. He's gonna be good.
I'm gonna tell you this much money. If I knew I was gonna make that much money from people talking about me, you better believe I'm gonna put that video up so I could go.
Like he went straight to the camera. He's good.
Straight to the point.
But he's a business. It's a business. It's a brand. His brand. He has made his brand where he just he's a big mouth. He talks like that's what his role is.
Yeah. No.
Hate it or love it, he's making money.
He's a polarizing personality, and I agree with Todd in that he knows exactly what he's doing. And I don't think that this him getting the thumbs down from NABJ is going to hurt his career at all. I do think also too, like there's nothing wrong with a call out on accountability, especially when we're talking about a journalist organization.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's go and shift gears. So we're going to play a little bit of an audible right now. So Keisean and Senora, I know you all are not necessarily the biggest college football fans. We had this discussion earlier today, and I know this, but I am. So with that being said, And obviously football is huge in Texas. We already know college football is huge. High school football is huge in Texas. And the Associated Press just released their preseason top 25 poll. And one of the big announcements with it is there were 5 different Texas teams to make it into the top 25. I had a chance to interview Chancellor Johnson, the sports journalist here in Houston. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say about this announcement today.
And Chancellor, we're talking about the AP preseason top 25 poll. Good news for Texas schools. There are 5 different Texas schools in the preseason poll. What are your thoughts and what's your take with it?
Yeah, a great start for the Lone Star teams. And you can consider that the top 2 Texas teams in Texas and Texas A&M as 2 teams that not only have playoff hopes, but championship ones. Texas coming in at number 5, as you hear the airport behind them getting ready to take off. And a lot of the fans hope their teams take off this season as well. The Longhorns, you're talking about being led by Arch Manning, going into another year for him and the talent and the roster that Steve Sarkisian has built around that team. Then Texas A&M, a team that was right there on the playoff doorstep last year, falling short against UT and having their playoff hopes exhausted. They're a team that hopes to get back to the playoffs as well. And then how about the Houston Cougars and Willie Fritz? They're a team that can actually win the Big 12 and potentially get into the playoffs. This is their highest. This is the first time they've been ranked in the top 25 since 2022. And so Willie Fritz has certainly built a nice roster here at U of H, and it will be really interesting to see what they can do in the Big 12 this season.
And and I think it's so interesting too is when you talk about the Cougs, like everybody, I think a lot of people always just put them in the category of it being a basketball school and not a football school. And I think that this year, this is the 3rd time since 1991 that they've actually been in the preseason poll. So, I mean, kind of going off of that and what you just said too, I mean, it looks like the tide is kind of shifting for the U of H as well.
Absolutely. It's a Willie Fritz effect. That guy has won every single program that he's been at. It's the reason why the UH hired him, to see what he could do in the Big 12. And since then, look, last year they just had a 10-win season and capped off the year by beating LSU right here, in Houston at NRG Stadium. And that was a really big momentum builder. And on top of that, they were able to retain a lot of guys. And it starts with their quarterback and kind of Wigman. And, having him back for another year, he's one of the best quarterbacks, not only just in the Big 12, but in the country. And so, they retooled. They knew they had to get more size up front, starts in the trenches, especially in the Big 12. And so, they will have a real opportunity. It's not just, get to the Big 12, but potentially get to the playoffs. And so, they'll have an early test against Texas Tech, another one of the Texas teams that certainly has playoff aspirations and all the money that they're pouring into that program. But U of H has been known as a basketball school, but their fans are very prideful, and Willie Fritz is certainly building a very nice and respectable program here off on Color Street.
Now, I have to say this much. So I was really happy to see the poll because I'm a huge Ohio State fan. Mm-hmm. So I love to see them at the top. But I mean, it's not going to be an easy path forward when it comes to the Longhorns, when it comes to the Buckeyes, when it comes to the Cougs or Tech or all these other schools or even A&M. Were there any schools in the top 25 where it kind of surprised you or anything surprised you with the poll that came out?
Well, I want to start with your Buckeyes first, man. It's definitely not going to be easy being in the Big 10, but they got 40 out of the 69 first-place votes, and that shows you the respect they have up there in Columbus, Ohio. And so, as you mentioned, a very tough schedule, but they have one of the best rosters in football. You have Julian Sang at the quarterback position, the best athlete and best player in the country as well. In your wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith, what a monster that he is. And so, it's certainly, understandable why Ohio State got their due. I think a team that, maybe surprised is Indiana. They're the national championship. They're the national champions currently. And Kirk Cignetti, coming up the year they had, winning, turning that program around from literally worst to first. It's got a little bit higher at the moment, but as you mentioned, the Big Ten is such a gauntlet. I expect Indiana to be in the playoffs once again. And whenever you have a head coach like Kirk Cignetti, who has built the program the way he has, currently has clearly shown his ability to win and win at the highest level, I think the Hoosiers will be just fine.
And and it's funny you say that because, like I said, I'm a huge Ohio State fan, but I felt like that Indiana kind of got a little bit of a snub when it went into the preseason poll. And it's so funny because, growing up in the Columbus area and stuff, it's always Ohio State, Michigan, and sometimes Penn State. Like, those are the 3 Big Ten schools that everybody's used to hearing or hell, not to age myself, but even Nebraska in like the late 90s and stuff like that. But it's like Indiana, like you never think about Indiana being a force to be reckoned with. So I honestly hope that they do make it to the playoffs. I hope that they do really well. And it's funny because I'm like, if there's one Big Ten team that's going to knock off Ohio State, I always hope it would be a school like Indiana or one of the schools where they don't really get their flowers very much and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As I mentioned earlier about how Cignetti has turned that program around, because if you're old enough to remember when Nebraska was winning, then you're old enough to remember how bad that Indiana has been over the years. So what he's been able to do there in Bloomington is nothing short of really a miracle. And so that's why he carries himself with so much confidence, because the proof is in the pudding. But talking about the Big Ten and how difficult it is, Ohio State at 1. Number 2 is Oregon. Now they're not a team that has fallen underneath the radar, but they're still seeking to get to over the hump and get back to a national championship, I should say. And so, as I mentioned, before in years past, it's been the SEC, and where they've been the best conference, for the past few years. But lately, it has been the Big Ten, and as I mentioned earlier, it is really a gauntlet all season long. And for a team like Ohio State, before you even get to the conference games, you got to play Texas, a team that's in the top 5. And so, how lucky are we as fans to be able to get that type of matchup early in the season?
Oh, for sure. And and it's so funny that you mentioned Oregon. I still haven't shifted my thought process in the fact that Oregon is part of the Big Ten. Like, it still feels so weird to me. I'm like I feel like that. I know the Pac-10 is obviously changed into whatever it is now, but it's always so weird to me to see them in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you dated yourself even more. You said Pac-10. I went to Arizona State when it was the Pac-12. So now it's funny now seeing how you got teams like Arizona State, Arizona. As mentioned, UCLA's in the Big Ten, Oregon's in the Big Ten. It just doesn't necessarily feel right, if I'm being honest. I'm used to the Pac-12 after dark. That's how we used to call it when I was in college. Now I'm dating myself. But it is made for just even more competitive conferences with some of those teams going to the Big Ten, some of those teams going to the Big 12.
Absolutely. And the last question I have for you is I want to talk about SMU. They're also in the preseason top 25. What's your take with SMU? I think that's another school that kind of, from a football fan like myself, I don't think of them as being a really strong school like University of Houston. Like, those are schools where I'm like, oh, I know that they're in one of the power conferences, but are they actually worth a damn this year?
Yeah, it helps to have when you have a number of returners coming back. And so what Brett Lashley has been able to build going into the season, you can understand why they'd be able to get votes. And so, they're one of 5 teams in Texas, in the top 25. And, I think they're slated about right. And they will have an opportunity, just like a Houston, just like a Texas Tech, to potentially punch a ticket to the playoffs at the end of the season. They have a very good roster. And so I'm not surprised at all that they were able to be a top 20 team this season.
Awesome.
At least in the preseason so far.
Well, I love it. Well, I'll tell you this much. I'm ready for college football to kick off, so it's going to be a good time. Chancellor, I appreciate it. I'll let you hop on your flight. I know you're getting ready to hop on, and look forward to talking with you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, I love college football.
We see. I was just sitting there like, what are they talking about?
I like, as a native Texan, it's probably illegal for me to not like or care about college football. But for Matt, I was just wondering, what is it about college football that you love so much?
So I think it's interesting you say that. Okay, so being from Ohio, we only have a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and try to explain it as quickly as I can. So you have Ohio, you have Cleveland, you have Cincinnati, where the Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, both NFL teams, and quite frankly, the Indianapolis Colts and also Pittsburgh Steelers are all within 3 hours of where I grew up.
Okay.
Columbus did not have a pro football team. And at that time, when I was growing up, before the Columbus Blue Jackets, which is professional hockey, and the professional soccer team that showed up, there was no other team that people could rally around besides the Ohio State Buckeyes. So with that being said, naturally, I turned into a huge college football fan. And anybody who's watching from Michigan, we do not like you from Ohio. You guys know this. And you guys, speaking of the drama with that, the rivalry with that, I was watching some report out of Detroit, and it was talking about something that was based out of Ohio, and they ended their report with a "Thanks, Ohio, we appreciate you" or something. And I was like, I'm glad that that there is no love lost between both sides. So,
Well, damn.
but so there's all of that. I know that we're wrapping up, but I also want to say I know that we're also we have another story that Keisean is going to put up on YouTube later
It'll be
tonight.
Up in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be, so we don't have that much time. So he's going to put it up on YouTube tonight with Dietrich. So it's talking about what's happening in the Middle East and the big updates there. So make sure you go and check that out. Appreciate you all for joining us. We love seeing you guys here. Make sure you follow us and come and see us tomorrow.
Yeah, come see us tomorrow, and
Let's
the
do
day
it again
after, and the day
tomorrow.
after, and the day after.
Exactly.
Okay.
Although I will not be on tomorrow night, so you two might be having to hold it down.
Oh Lord.
That's what we do.
Hold it down. All right, y'all. Have a good night, y'all.
All right, you too. Thank y'all.
Night.
Bye.